today. Thank you guys for coming out. My name is Shantae Duncan. I am the president of the Faulkner County NAACP, and we are here co-sponsoring this event with the League of Women Voters, so let's give it up to those two organizations. I would like to welcome you guys. This is our second time putting on a school candidate forum, and we think this is very important to meet the candidates before we cast our vote. So thank you guys for coming out, and thank you guys for running and taking the time to put forth, you know, all the energy that you're going to have to do on the school board if elected. So if you guys, I know Miss Leslie will have cue cards going around, so if you have any questions during this while they're speaking, you can write them down and turn them into us. But furthermore, thank you so much, and thank you, Drew, for coming up here and doing this again. You did a great job last time, so I look forward to it again. So thank you guys again, and let's get going.
Ms. Duncan said I did a good job. The truth of it is that Jeff told him he was busy when they asked Jeff, and somehow he's still here. So we're going to trade places. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Appreciate your engagement in our local government and democracy. I'll reiterate a lot of what Ms. Duncan said. Thank you to the organizations hosting tonight. It does take a lot of effort to bring all of this together. And we had an interesting moment a second ago when we were talking about this event and the people on stage. We think there's one person who's actually getting paid to be here, and it's the library for hosting, right? And so for everyone else that's here, they are volunteers. So thank you for engaging in our democracy and local discourse. I want to recognize a couple other people here. I believe we have two sitting school board members, Mrs. Linda Hargis and Dr. Barrett Petty. Thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate your service. School board is the hardest elected position because you are closer to the voters than you are in any other seat, and you get paid absolutely nothing, and people get really frustrated with you. Can I get an amen from our sitting school board members? So, thank you to our candidates for being here tonight. Here's how the structure of this is going to work. We're going to give you each up to 2 minutes. You can take, I'm a little taller than Shantae, I think. You can take up to 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. And then when we move into question time, I have some questions that were pre-submitted. Again, I think Dr. Gabriel may be walking around or somewhere with cue cards. Oh, there she is. She was right in front of me. Sorry, Leslie. There we go. With cue cards, if you have additional questions you'd like asked, feel free to grab one of those and write them down. They will come up here. When we get to question time, I'm going to ask, to keep it fair, I'm going to ask a question and give each of you up to 60 seconds to respond. Mr. Lyon is going to be our timekeeper here. He will give you a cue on that. Am I forgetting anything? I'm also going to ping pong who starts, so that way we're not going to let Wendy be attacked with the first answer to the question every time. Although that would be fun. We won't do that tonight. Any questions for anybody about structure or how this is going to work? Hey, James. Any questions from anybody? Okay, so we're going to a lot going on up here. There we go. This is going to be Wendy and Ashley. I think I just turned them all off when they were already on. There we go. Okay. You're in the middle. Look at you. You were going to have a buddy. All right, and it's already on. I'm not going to make the same mistake again. All right, so there are two races on the ballot for this election. So we have a Zone 2 election, which I'll let you guys talk about what that is. Candidates there are Wendy Francis and Ashley Lyon. And then there's also a Zone 3 seat up. 3 of the 4 candidates were able to join us tonight, and I'll let them introduce themselves in just a second. Mr. Bentler wasn't able to join us tonight, but there's a lot of information about him on his website. If you would like to go read and learn more, I encourage you to reach out to him as well. So Wendy, we are going to start with you here. So you guys each have up to 2 seconds to give us a little bit of an intro. Tell us who you are and why you're running. Whatever you want to do.
My name is Wendy Francis. I'm a local CPA. I operate a tax and consulting firm. I am a graduate from UCA. I moved here from a very small town, and like so many people in Conway, I just stayed here. Met my husband, and we settled in Conway, and as of today, we've been married for 21 years. I have 2 children that attend schools in Conway. My oldest will actually compete in the state wrestling tournament tomorrow for the school. So y'all keep him in your thoughts, please, and me, please. I'm sure I am in danger of blowing a gasket watching that. I love this community. I love everything about this community. I'm active volunteer. I'm a huge supporter of youth sports. I dedicate a lot of time to the Youth Football League. And I am an advocate for students. I think that the most important thing we can do is direct our attention to reading and early intervention in our school system. And I am at Zone 2. Zone 2 is the pink zone, if you're not familiar. I'm certain that it brushes up against every major intersection in West Conway. It looks like a big puzzle piece. So it crosses over Hogan and comes down to Salem, goes all the way out to Carolyn Lewis, and it is somewhat, it zigzags quite a lot. It's one of the more interesting, and that is really all for me.
Good job. All right, well, she started standing, so I guess I'll stand too. All right, so I typed mine, but my name is Ashley Lyon. I am a wife, mother of 4, and a new grandmother. My husband, Jason, is my high school sweetheart, and this fall, we will celebrate 30 years together. 20 years ago, we moved our young family from the DFW Metroplex to Conway when I accepted a position at UCA working in residence life. We fell in love with Conway and all it has to offer. As our family grew, I chose to step away from full-time work to focus on raising our children, and that's when I began serving in our schools. During that time, I became actively involved in PTO leadership and have served across all levels of the district. I currently serve as the PTO president at Carl Stewart Middle School and as president of the Conway Bands Booster Organization. I am running for the Conway School Board because I believe our students must always come first. With a background in higher education and student development, I understand what students need to be successful beyond graduation, and so much of their foundation begins within the halls of Conway schools. My priorities include building trust through transparency, fiscal responsibility, and with consistency in decision making. I also believe in fostering strong collaboration with our outstanding teachers and administrators and truly listening to their knowledge and insight. I have demonstrated a long-term commitment to our district students, families, and teachers, and I would be honored to continue serving Conway Public Schools in this new capacity.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to care about our future and our schools. My name is Shannan Knudsen, and I'm running for Conway School Board Zone 3. I'm a mom of 4 with 3 current students in Conway schools, and they're here tonight. A certified public accountant, but most importantly, someone who believes deeply in the power of public education to shape strong, confident, and capable young people. As a parent, I've seen firsthand how much our schools matter, not just academically, but socially and emotionally. Our classrooms are where our students and my kids discover their strengths, build friendships, and begin to imagine their futures. That's why my effort is student-centered and future-focused. Every decision we make as a board should come back to one simple question: is this what's best for our students? As a CPA, I also understand the importance of responsible financial stewardship. Our district must plan wisely, spend strategically, and ensure that the resources are aligned with our priorities, supporting our teachers, strengthening programs, and preparing students for college, careers, and life. I believe strong schools require strong partnerships between families, educators, administrators, and the broader community just like you. I'm committed to listening, collaborating, and working hard to ensure every student in Conway has the opportunity to succeed. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight, and I look forward to our conversation.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Moses. Many of you have heard from me before, and I look forward to the chance to continue this conversation. I'm a dad at Ruth Doyle. My son also attended Ida Burns and Florence Madison. I earned a degree in financial risk management from UA La Roque and worked as a national bank examiner for the U.S. Department of Treasury. My background is oversight, identifying risk, and making sure policies match reality. When I look at a budget, I know what to look for. Over the past few years, I've stayed engaged in our schools. I built relationships with teachers and staff across campuses. When the board added a charter conversion to the agenda before public had been informed, I spoke up about transparency and it was removed. When administrative costs grew while classrooms felt stretched thin, I asked hard questions that led to leadership change. When teachers wanted to use Amazon wish list and donors choose, I pushed for it and had a policy implemented. When my son's best friend needed an IEP, I brought it to the board's attention and stayed engaged until he received one. Some call that being critical. I call it doing the work. My platform is simple. Classrooms come first. Budgets should be clear. Transparency should be proactive. Board members should show up consistently and be prepared. Accountability only matters if it produces results. And in Conway, it already has.
Hi, I'm Emily Railsback. I am a film professor at the University of Central Arkansas. I've taught here for 4.5 years, and I moved here from Chicago, where I taught at Columbia, Chicago. So I've been in education for 8.5 years, and I have a daughter now in our public schools at Julia Lee Moore. My interest for running really is because of my daughter and because of wanting to give back to the community. I understand how important school boards are. I know it's not a glamorous job, but it is something that I'm willing to serve on. My experience is also in curriculum development. I have served on curriculum committees. I've also been the chair of a hiring committee for our program. I'm good at negotiating. I also teach students in college, preparing them for the real world, how to oversee project management, how to make budgets that are creative. So having a vision and then understanding how a budget can actually make something happen. So one of the points that I really care about is, can we do something that's both good for students, the environment, and teachers? So for instance, Batesville actually implemented putting solar panels in, and it created revenue, and that revenue they were able to give back to teachers' salaries. So is that something that we could do? Are there data-driven decisions that we could do that are not just risky, but that we have some clear numbers that could work and also bring a vision to our schools? My motto is teachers and students first. So I don't know the time. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Well done. All right, so we're going to move into some questions that were submitted now. Again, if you have questions that you haven't had an opportunity to ask yet, Dr. Graybiel has index cards and pins over here. Just wave at her, and I think there's some on the other side as well. So just wave, we'll get an index card to you, and they'll make their way up here. So Ms. Lyon, I'm going to start with you for this first question, if that's okay. And you can take a second to, think, breathe. Yeah, just don't feel like you have to just run straight to it. We'll give you a second. What would you say the role of the school board is in day-to-day operations of the school district? So what would you say the role of the school board is in day-to-day operations of the school district? We'll start with Ms. Lyon when she's ready, and then we're going to work left from there. So it'll be Shannan next. Excuse me, Ms. Knudsen next. I'm sorry. So many of y'all are my friends, and I just want to call you by your first names. So whenever you're ready, Ms. Lyon.
Day to day, I don't believe that is our purview. I believe that is up to obviously the administrators and then the superintendent. As I step into this role and as I've talked to people, I would, however, like to see the board in the schools a little more. I've talked to different principals and different teachers about that. I would want it, like I know it's on the schedule for them to go and tour some schools next week. And I think that's really fun too, because they like to show off, but I would want to go without the pomp and circumstance and just come in. You don't have to know who I am. I just want to come see what you're dealing with, and not in a I want to get you and catch you doing something you're not supposed to, but I want to see what is it looking like on the front lines? What is it actually like? Like, what is it in the classroom? I've been a sub. I've seen what they're dealing with sometimes. So when those tours happen, I would rather see what it's really like, that the students that might be the more difficult students haven't been removed or, threatened, to behave because they're coming. I would like to just get out there and make it a commonplace that we're just there to check in and see and not be off, in the administration building all the time. I would really love to put boots on the ground, see what's going on, and not have that be like a rarity, I guess, would be
Great.
what I would like.
Thank you. I also neglected to tell y'all Mr. Wayne will be watching time. He'll have signs for you here. No, I didn't tell you. It was my fault. So go ahead and give him extra 30 seconds on these if they need it. Ms. Knudsen, whenever you're ready. My bad, Ashley.
For the day-to-day operations, I think the job of the school board is to be aware of what's happening, but they're not running the show day to day. Their job is to set the budget. Their job is to hire a superintendent who is capable and help hold that person accountable, and then let those expert teachers do their thing and let them be experts and flourish in a place that is supportive of them. I agree with Ashley, and I said it in a meeting last Saturday at the junior high that was facilitated by the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation. I think school board members should show up at the junior high and just watch how it is between classes, to watch 1,500 students make their way from one point to another, because it is not easy. And to understand and appreciate the challenges that teachers and students and staff are experiencing day to day, and then let's get to work to figure out how to address those challenges using the tools that we do have in our power, which is policies and planning financially.
So as a bank examiner, one of my roles was to oversee boards. I think there's a lot of confusion with what the purpose of a board is. The board of directors at Wells Fargo is not going into a branch and instructing someone, a teller, how to make a deposit. That's not what the board does. The board should set strategy from an umbrella form and then trust their employees to implement that action. With that said, I do believe that the board should show up and be consistently prepared, not just showing up at school events, but also community events. We are working on improving trust in the community. It's regularly cited as the #1 issue in the campus, and having those interactions with the community improves that, not just for the community, but also for the district. Also, they need to remember that classrooms come first. Any decision should go back to a classroom. Do we need all of these staff? Can we do something to make the teachers' roles easier? What can we do to improve our scores? It should all go back to the classroom. And then lastly, use their greatest asset, which is teachers. Most of the things that I have been able to accomplish in this district, the Donors Choose, Amazon wish list, we'll call it mounting pressure to change leadership, those all were messages and emails from teachers within the campus that I've taken the time to build relationships with. And when you do that, you have that information. You're not the bad guy. They see you as an ally and want to say, hey, I'm here. I'm in the classroom. This is what we need. This is how we can get help. Can you do it? And so using that as your greatest asset.
I align with a lot of what they're saying here as well. I don't think that it is the board's job to do day-to-day operations. However, I do think it's important to listen to educators and listen to stakeholders, people on all sides that are affected by the decisions and the budget. For instance, I was talking to a teacher last week about the assessments that we do, and the assessment atlas is one that is known to not be very good among the teachers. And they say this is not even covering what we teach in the classroom. And we put so much emphasis on this assessment. So it's like there's a huge disconnect. And if teachers don't feel like they can speak up, or maybe some of them do, but I think the board is also there to really be the voice for them and to help foster issues so that teachers feel supported.
I agree with everyone on stage that our job as a board is to provide oversight, to approve contracts, review budgets, look into the details of non-standard transactions, to oversee the superintendent, and that's really the only person that we have any say in hiring or firing. I think that on a day-to-day basis, again, we are not to be involved in the minute-to-minute activities. Our job and our role day-to-day would be attuned to the concerns of the community and things that are changing in the community and how that's going to affect the school district overall, and how we need to be aware of those future twists and turns and what that implies to the budget and the needs that we have. Also be abreast to any upcoming legislation that is going to affect us directly or even indirectly, and how we need to adjust the budget or have an eye to the bottom line for that, so that we can best suit our teachers and our students to roll with how things change. And outside of that, we just really need to be attuned to the overall health of our district.
Thanks, everyone. All right, so for this next question, we'll start with Mr. Moses. And again, take a second if you'd like. So we're just throwing softballs at this point. The board recently bought out the contract of the former superintendent and then hired the deputy superintendent. What do you want to see from the new leadership, and how will you push to make that happen if elected? Feel free to take a second to breathe on that one.
I got this.
And then 60 seconds for time. Watch Mr. Wayne here for time, please.
Yeah, so I was very involved with the change in leadership with the superintendent. There was regularly a lot of feedback from our community about the changes that needed to be made, and ultimately the leadership decisions that were taking place with not funding our classrooms, but spending a lot of funds in areas that didn't impact the classroom. The board has done, I think, a good job at becoming more receptive to community members, but there's still room to be made. I think that new leadership should continue engaging the community. There's surveys that have gone out. They should listen to that and take that feedback and apply that to the district. Accountability only works if it's active. And so new leadership, Mr. Black, should listen to the community and make those changes.
Thank you, Tyler. Dr. Railsback?
Yeah, I believe in transparency. I think a good leader can also serve the community. I think that giving back sets a really good example, teaching kids that you can kind of be a servant leader to other people. And yeah, really listening to people and taking their opinions into consideration, as well as being data-driven. I think those are all things I really think are important. I also would like to see a leader that's also engaging in research about AI. There's a lot of research out there about how it affects brain activity in children, how it could be used to assess students, but also if it's used too much in certain ways, their brain is not working at all. So I would really love, I've heard that in 2026, 30% of the job market is going to be affected by AI. So I really hope that we would have a leader that really steps up.
Ms. Francis?
Obviously, that was a really transitional phase for our school district to a change in leadership. I hope that Mr. Black will remain engaged and have an eye to what the community's concerns are. We are in a phase of very rapid change in education, and as education goes, it's not a very rapidly adapting profile. It's difficult, and we, with AI, with different things, I hope that Mr. Black will stay on top of the negative effects that so much screen time will have on children, the impact of AI, how it's going to impact grading, those types of things. But I think it's really important for him to recognize that the community is involved and that their opinion should be valued. Their input is necessary and needed. And my time is up.
I'm trying to think. I feel like we kind of went a little off.
We went a little.
Can you repeat the question? I
We
feel
went
like
a
we're
little wide
off.
for it. Yeah. Board recently bought out the previous superintendent's contract and then hired the previous deputy superintendent. What do you want to see from new leadership, and how will you push to make that happen if elected?
Okay. No, you're fine. I was just trying to circle back. So I went through and read Mr. Black's contract just to kind of see what we put in there, and because I think as a district, and it was said at the school board meeting, he's our guy. So we need to move forward, and how are we gonna do that? In there, it gives the board opportunities to evaluate him at least once a year, minimum. So it doesn't mean we only get to do it once a year, we can do it more often. So I think that as a board, we need to set some very clear expectations, and maybe try to put some different like goals, or like measurable goals. There were some in there, but those were kind of more academically, testing goals and things like that. But I think that we can go back and build in a little bit more in our expectations and lay it out for him that this is what we want to see, and then follow up with him throughout the year on where we're going with that and how it's going.
Thank you. Ms. Cummins?
Sorry. I think the first thing that is going to be really important is that he distinguishes himself as an independent person and separates himself from the prior leadership, given the turmoil that was created under that leadership. I think that's an opportunity for the school board to set clear expectations and give real-time feedback. To do that, that means the school board is also showing up and knowing how things are going, what's happening, how he's leading, and giving great feedback or giving hard conversation feedback in a place where trust has been built, because we are seen as members of the same team. We are all Team Conway. We are all supporting the students. We have a common mission. We have a common goal. So it's easy to have a hard conversation in that space. But I think really just setting the goal to be looking ahead. How can we be future focused on the strategic priorities, and how can the board support him in that way, but also hold him accountable when things are distracted or deviated?
Thank you, everyone. All right, this next question, we're going to start with Ms. Francis. We'll go a little lighter here, and then we'll go back to the heavy hitters next. How should a board member prepare for school board meetings? How should a board member prepare for school board meetings?
I believe to prepare for school board meetings, you need to review previous minutes, the future agenda. Obviously, you receive the financial statements, develop questions that need to be asked in relation to budget performance, any particular resignations that have been received, what the information is around that. In general, you just, and also, I'm certain that we will hear a lot from the community, and review those questions that are coming from the constituents.
Thank you, Ms. Lyon.
Definitely read all of the attachments that go with the board agenda, so that you know there's a lot. Sometimes there's a whole lot in there. It's not just the little bit. And I printed them out once, and it was a lot of paperwork. But making sure that you understand what's on there, making sure that you have an open, I guess not open door because you don't have an office, but an open policy with your constituents. Is there something that they're concerned about? Is there something on the agenda that they, are worried about or want you to bring up in new business? Making sure that those lines of communication are open, so that you, because it's only once a month. So you got to get on it pretty quick, otherwise it's a whole nother month before you can talk about things. So making sure that leading up to the meeting, you're prepared to cover whatever has been brought to your attention, and you're ready to act on it.
I think everybody's saying do your homework. Ms. Knudsen, you're next.
That's a good summary. I think first and foremost, let's understand the laws of how a school board meeting should be run. Let's understand how executive session should be used. That's the floor. That's the beginning. That's before any meeting has been had. Let's understand how to operate in that space. Second, I think review the agenda, review the attachments, ask questions. I was an auditor for 15 years. Questions are my specialty. You can ask my family. It's important to ask open-ended questions, not closed-ended questions. Understand why decisions are being made. Understand why spending is increasing. Understand why they're asking for more funds. Don't make assumptions, but listen. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I think you should use them in that proportion. But I think asking questions and being prepared is important.
Mr. Moses?
The board should be prepared, I think, by keeping a pulse of the community. That means being involved, not just at the district, but also the community. a lot of the information that you're getting from parents or what we want in the school, you hear from interacting with parents. So listening to PTO, to parents, going to community events, Arbor Day events, or various other events, and engaging. I think what's also incredibly important is to not just hear, but listen to the public, and that means public comments at board meetings as well. Transparency is regularly cited as the top issue that needs to be improved on, and the board needs to do that by listening and realizing that we're all on the same team, and criticism is room for feedback because we want our children to succeed. And then ultimately provide oversight by doing your homework, looking at the budget, keeping track of trends. Why are we spending more here and less here? Are our grades going up or down? I'm out of time, so.
All right, Dr. Railsback.
I feel like we got some amazing answers, so it's actually very hard to go last on this one. I agree, and I would add to that, I'm someone who's a connector, and I love talking to people. I like to visit my daughter's school during pickups and drop-offs. I'm the homeroom mom in her kindergarten class. But I think just being aware of like what are the issues at heart, and are there people that maybe have issues and don't understand the way in which you bring them to the board. But then also all of the things that were said before me. I think do your homework, reading is a good thing for life skills.
That topic may show back up later. Just maybe. All right, thank you, everyone. I started with you, didn't I, Wendy? Right, with the background, just making sure. All right, we're going to start with Ms. Knudsen for this next question. And again, feel free to take a second to breathe. You know, you can have your pageant girl smile ready. I haven't validated this number, so I'm not saying it's correct or incorrect. It's just the number on the card. During the last school board election, a few candidates mentioned the possibility of a $70 million millage increase. Could you speak to this? Open-ended question. That's what you asked for.
Yes, and it's a number question, so I'm a fan since I'm a CPA. I think every millage should be evaluated with high level of scrutiny. It is not something that you would just accept or propose or throw around and just absolutely advocate for. I think before you even get to millage, you scrutinize the way the money has been spent and the planned budget for the next year. Does it align with our priorities? Does it align with strategic priorities? Has it been used responsibly? Does money need to be moved around where possible? But I'll also tell you, I've been to the junior high and I've walked through the halls and seen how crowded it is. So it's something that you have to evaluate for long-term capital planning. How do you want to plan strategically for the district for the next 10 years, for the next 20 years? It's important to think about all of those, not individually, but holistically. And so you take care on how you evaluate things. And so answering one question about a proposed amount is a siloed question, and I would rather look at all the information together.
Great. Mr. Moses.
There has been a lot of conversation about the millage increase. I think it's also important to know that Conway is one of the fastest growing cities in the state. With that said, the millage is a percentage based on the asset base of the city. So if assets are going up year after year, the taxes are going up year after year. Our board manages a budget of over $115 million. I am the first to stand up and say fund our classrooms, pay our teachers, make sure our students are learning. I don't think the millage question is a problem. I think getting there will be the problem, because before we get there, the community has to begin to be able to trust that the board's decisions are using those funds prudently. And when we're getting sued for FOIA violations every month, or we're in the news for various situations, the public doesn't really get a great feeling about giving more funds to be used on anything except for classrooms. So yes, we need to fund our classrooms. Oh, I'm out of time. I wasn't looking.
Dr. Railsback. Next.
I believe that we need to fund our classrooms, and it is obviously very likely that we need a new school. I know among my friends that are moms, we all talk about, are we going to continue having our kid in the school system in junior high? Because we've heard stories from other moms that depending on your student, Like, if your kid thrives in a setting like that where it's packed, maybe you decide to do something different. And so part of my, reasoning to be on the board is like, I really do want Conway to be the best school district for our children. So I agree that we should have scrutiny and that we should ask questions about how much money is needed. We do need to look at the overall budget, but I also think that we do need to have enough space for students so that they can work.
Thank you. Ms. Francis.
I agree that in terms of any millage increase, that you have to critically evaluate where your budget is, what your needs are, your specific goals that you intend to utilize that millage increase for. Again, we are growing, our schools are aging. I have static. We are growing and our schools are aging. It is important that we evaluate any waste that is occurring and redirect. I doubt that we are seeing $70 million in waste at any given time, but it is important that we eliminate anything that we possibly can and redirect it to our classroom resources and support. But in the future, there will be a need. We just need to, as a board and as a district, make sure that it is excessively defined what that use is and that it's very clear to the community.
Ms. Lyon.
I have heard that is something being tossed around in places, but I think that right now, as we have said, that we have got to look at the foundation and build the trust in the community before we can ask this community to give us more money. We need to really show that we're being fiscally responsible currently, and definitely do some streamlining, look at all that we are spending. Do we need all these positions? All that needs to be taken into account. But I will say there are facilities that are going to be needed. There's facilities that need upgrades or need to be added or that have been, removed so that we could use that to build on, as a building site for like the new high school. Some things were taken away. So trying to go back and replace some of the things that have been kind of, taken away in the past. But I think it is going to be coming up, and we need to prove that we are worthy before we put that out there.
Okay. Thank you. All right, for this next question, we're going to start with Dr. Railsback. So we'll start with you and then work this way. I want to be clear there. We'll start with you and then we'll come to Wendy and work back. Excuse me, Ms. Francis, and work back this way. I'm going to get this. We're going to start with you. And then, sorry, at work all day, I start with someone and work left. So I'm just keeping that going, otherwise I'll be lost. Okay, so there are probably 12 questions up here about transparency. So my best blend of this question is, what does transparency mean, and what do we need to do differently to build public trust? So what does transparency mean, and what do we need to do differently to build public trust?
That's a great question. I believe that transparency means that you're showing what you're actually doing, right? So that means not taking things behind closed doors. That means, making numbers available, also information available, why decisions were made. The second part of your question was how we can do public trust. I think if public trust has been damaged, we need to involve the stakeholders in the decision-making process. So we need parents, we need the community members, we need teachers, administrators. I think if everyone feels that their voice is heard and is given a platform to share their opinions and it's actually listened to, and information is shared freely, then I think it's a positive way to build trust.
Who's supposed to go next? Me. I believe that transparency is a clear and truthful sharing of information well ahead of decision making, not after decision making. We clearly have had an issue with this in Conway, and at this point, in order to rebuild trust, we must be excessively transparent. We must involve our stakeholders on the front end well before it comes to a vote, before it becomes a decision matrix. We have to put the information out there and get input in order to include everyone in the community, so that we can direct ourselves in a way that is encompassing and showing that we are moving in a clear direction.
Ms. Lyon?
Gosh, I think we've covered a lot of it, but definitely making sure that there's not even the appearance of trying to hide something. I think that sometimes, absolutely, there are things that we cannot discuss in public. We do have to go into executive session, but making sure that A, we are allowed to do that, and B, that we explain that. I think allowing people to speak freely, and share their thoughts with us is a way to help encourage that. I just think being open and available for people is going to help, and then making sure that they're aware of the things going on. There's so many times that things just come up and you're like, wait, what? Like, they were talking about with the school charter, like that just popped up so quick, and we were just, everybody, it was on the school board agenda and nobody knew what was going on, and that's just not the way to approach things. That should have been in these meetings and these forums and things like that to discuss what it meant to all of us before it was ever brought before the board.
Ms. Knudsen?
So I think transparency is proactive communication. I think it takes a great deal of intention, so it's an action that you are actively, intentionally doing that. I think it's demonstrated by listening and taking time to act on the feedback that you're receiving. But the way that you build trust is with time and with listening. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, and it takes every person acting in the same direction and building that block by block. It is not something that we can assume, because it has been eroded and deteriorated in this community. And I believe it's possible to build it back. I believe you build it back by building systems and processes, because with those things come controls and predictability and a clear expectation by everyone involved on when will I hear from you? How will I hear from you? What will I hear from you? And all the fear goes away when you have strong controls and processes.
Mr. Moses?
Transparency is incredibly important. I think you'll continue to hear that, and frankly, it has lacked. It has gotten better, but there's a lot of room for growth here. Ultimately, the board has to learn to listen to the community, not just when it's easy. I mean, sometimes you're going to make mistakes, and you have to be willing to hear that. I was at a focus group recently at Ruth Doyle where the same thing came up. Parents were discussing, what is the point in the focus groups if the board isn't going to listen? So the board has to, unfortunately, show that they are willing to listen, because it's an uphill battle right now. And so we have to be able to extend the olive branch and show that we're willing to listen so that we can improve transparency. They also have to operate knowing that the community put them there. They're sitting on that board because the community put them there. They report to the community. There's no reason to use executive session to shield the public from information, and that information should be communicated before the decision is made, not after it's in the newspaper.
Thank you all. All right, for this next question, we're going to start with Ms. Francis. How would you handle situations like parents calling you to complain about a teacher, a principal, or a disciplinary decision? So how would you handle situations like parents calling you to complain about a teacher, a principal, or a disciplinary decision?
So there's a bunch of different levels of complaints that you would receive in that nature. Again, we don't deal directly with the day-to-day operations, but I would need to collect information from that person and determine, is this something that is systemic? Is it a widespread thing? Is this an individual instance that happened? Just in order to gather the information to determine to whom it needed to be directed to make corrections. That's not something I can involve myself in directly as a board member, unless we're talking about something really egregious that is like harm to a child, a dangerous situation, something of that nature. I think that we have administrators in place to handle those situations, and so I would certainly want to be compassionate and empathetic, and learn from whomever wanted to present the information, and then find who could actually take action on it in the school.
Ms. Lyon?
I feel like a lot of times when people come to others, it's because they want someone to feel heard. And so definitely listen and see what it is they're wanting. You know, a lot of times when I would get the helicopter moms when I was running residence halls, and we joked that we even had like the Apache moms that would come in. They're, you know, helicopter moms on steroids. But you just have to listen and ask them, you know, what is it that you're wanting? And just kind of see, because sometimes they just really wanted someone to listen and to know that this happened. And so kind of see what it is that's going on, and then from there, like Wendy said, you know, see where it needs to go. Most of that, I think, needs to be directed back to Mr. Black, because that is not really our purview unless it's something with Mr. Black, or, you know, depending on what's going on, you know, and like she said, systemic issue, or a pattern that's been addressed multiple times. I just don't think that that's our role.
Ms. Knudsen?
I think it's important to listen. I think I've said that on a lot of answers. I think that's always where you start, because it's important to make sure you understand as much as possible. And I'm not listening to respond, I'm listening to understand. People need to be understood and people need to be heard, and then determine where can they go for a resolution and help them get there. Don't just leave them on an island and say, well, I heard you, good luck to you. But let's connect you with the right person to get the right solution, because the mission of the school is to make sure every child is taken care of. So if it has to do with the student, then we've got to figure it out. But I don't believe in the day-to-day operations, it's not the purview of the school board, but we can be dot connectors and make sure that people have the resources that they need to get to the answers that they deserve.
Mr. Moses?
As the Zone 3 board member, my job would be to be proactive, not reactive. Policies do not lie. That's why they're implemented. That's why you see these risks and plan for them before they occur. And so in those situations, you have something to point to. You're not taking it case by case. You have a policy that you're referencing. And so again, the CEO of Wells Fargo is not telling a teller how to make a deposit. And so when you have faculty members who know the policies, that's what they abide by. You should show up and be involved, and that means knowing if a parent calls me, hear them. That's a valid concern. But you need to contact John Doe or Jane Doe. Let's start there. The policy says this. We need to do the policy. I'm not going to operate the day-to-day operations of the school.
Dr. Railsback?
I actually deal with this a lot because I have students that will complain, or they'll, you know, they go through different channels. So I agree, there's always a channel, there's a policy in place, and so it's important to implement it, but it's important to hear people out. I think there's also a lot of crazy complaints out there, and so maybe it's also educating and informing parents or anyone who's complaining, like, is there a reason that maybe they're not being communicated with? I think oftentimes a complaint happens because someone doesn't really fully understand maybe the reason why behind something. So I think as a board member, it is not day-to-day operations. It's not the job of the board member, but I do think it's important to hear people out and sort of also connect them with the right channel to make a complaint.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with Ms. Lyon for this next question. If elected, how would you help the board stay focused on student growth and achievement? If elected, how would you help the school board stay focused on student growth and achievement?
I think that's really where we need to move our focus towards. I feel like we have spent the last few years, it seems, being very reactive to what's going on, to what's in the news, all of that. And we need to swing back around and remember why we're here. There's a lot of new things coming out with all the LEARNS Act, requirements, and how that's impacting our schools with this new literacy requirement. That's a huge impact that we're about to be facing head on as we move towards this year's grades. and assessments. And so we've really got to look at what is needed in our classrooms. And to do that, we've got to start focusing on that and not all of these other things that are going on. We're here to support the teachers. We're here to do what needs to be done. And as a board, to make that happen, we've got to stop doing things we're not supposed to do and make sure we're doing the things we are.
Ms. Knudsen.
I think to focus on it, you've got to understand why it's not moving in a direction that you expect it to be. What are the drivers? What is the underlying data telling you? Where are the challenges, and how can we address them? How can we address them by equipping our teachers to be excellent? How do we address them by providing policies that are well structured and kids feel safe and can operate in a school that is attractive to them and they want to participate in? And we want to be the premier school district. So how do we create an environment of safety and security for students to flourish? Because if kids feel safe and they have good security and boundaries, they do amazing things. So how do we let our kids be amazing? How do we let our teachers be amazing? And I think the data will show you that the results will come when the structures are built securely.
Thank you. Mr. Moses.
We have made actual huge progress in the last year in this area. Dr. Bennett is doing an incredible job in the district doing actual change to improve our literacy and math scores. We've approved a new reading curriculum. We've hired RBTs in the district. So we're making a lot of progress here. The CAT forums that have taken place where the community members have shown up and said what they want to see, that's great feedback. And so as the board, they need to listen to that feedback and be willing to adjust course when it doesn't work. You're not perfect, and we're not expecting that. And so a board member needs to be able to adjust course when something doesn't work or when something can work better. Am I out of time? Okay. Also, as a risk management background, the LEARNS Act has really created a risk that public schools need to prepare for. With vouchers, parents have more choice than they've ever had before, and so Conway has to be able to compete with that. For every child that walks out the door, that's $7,000 that the public school is losing. And so we need to make sure that Conway is the best option for all students in our district. And so the board needs to keep that in mind when they're making these decisions. Is this the best time?
Dr. Railsback.
I think there's, with the voucher thing, right? I think it's important that the public schools really are the best option for people. So what is it that people are going towards? I know there's a lot of push right now for outdoor learning. There's a lot of push for hands-on learning in other schools. One of the major differences between private schools and public schools is that the class sizes are smaller and there's no screens in the classroom. In a lot of private schools, and especially in schools where any of the tech developers, they send their children to schools where there's no smartphones. So I think if we recognize kind of the difference of what are we offering people, what could we offer people, I think we're doing a great job, though. I love our schools, and I think we could just expand things, I do think we need to look into the assessments that we currently are offering, the Atlas testing especially. I also think we could expand life skills, gardening program for all grades, and I also think implementing a rest time into our daily day.
Okay, how would I help the school board stay focused on student achievement? By making it my focus, by continuously bringing it to the forefront. It is the most important thing in our school district. It should not be an issue for it to be the focal point. I personally would, as a parent, not even as a school board candidate, I would like to see special meetings that address simply achievement and where we are at any given time that is separate from general business, because that is my focal point as a parent as well. So I would help the board stay focused by bringing attention to it.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Knudsen, we're going to start with you for this next one, and this is the open question that you asked for. So I'm going to say a whole bunch of words, and you pick where you go with it, okay? How would you enable community input to the board and the district? Here are some topics you could explore. Is the meeting space adequate for those who wish to attend? Is the comment apparatus clear and fair, or is it cumbersome? Are there ways for members of the public to provide input online or in writing that would be useful and helpful to the board? So some topics you could explore include those. The question is, how would you enable community input to the board and the district?
Well, I'll tell you how I've done it. So I currently lead a support team of a system that supports 20,000 employees. And every financial transaction that goes through it, if you have a problem with it, you call my team. So the way we do it is there are easy ways that you can open a ticket to reach out to us. Maybe that's an email, maybe that's a phone number or whatever. But also to hold me and my team accountable, I have service level agreements on when I'm going to respond to you. So you're not sending an email to a black box. You're sending it to a person who has accountability to say, I'm responding in a certain amount of time. I think that matters because as a parent, when something comes up, I need an answer. I need an answer soon because it's my kid and it's my kid's challenge and I need it addressed. So I think an easy way that's easy to find on a website that has a predictable response time is critical. But I love the in-person feedback. Let's have meetings where we're just listening. Again, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so let's use them. Let's have a place where on a Tuesday night you can come and ask a question and expect a resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Moses?
Community input is incredibly important. Thankfully, the law was recently changed in Arkansas to where you don't have to get permission to speak anymore. Until a few months ago, you had to receive authorization to speak to your elected representatives. I spoke to the board suggesting that that policy be changed before the law was changed. Unfortunately, that did not occur, but when the legislature said you have to do it, then it occurred. Our board needs to be proactive, showing our community that they want to hear from them. And also, we need to improve morale with teachers so that teachers can come to the board. They're part of our community, and they're experts in the education system. So we really need to listen to them. We also have got to make a commitment to following FOIA. It's a really simple task that is really hard for our district for some reason.
I do think that the meetings are not that accessible for everyone. If you have kids, you would have to get childcare. So something that I think would be nice would to make a fun event that's more of like a party at maybe the end of summer, or maybe it's right before registration so people can actually get to know the educators and who's in the district. It could be a networking opportunity to get to know parents. Parents could make friends with each other. I know that's something that me and my husband really want to do, is to like actually meet other parents. So I think having some sort of event with childcare provided, with activities for kids, and listening to people at something that's fun would be more relevant. Not everyone is going to get involved on the day-to-day or month-to-month meetings, but I agree that we need some sort of, email or form that would be responded to quickly. So I think that is also a vital part, but also making it a little bit more fun.
Thank you. Ms. Francis?
I think that it would be a really valid idea to create like a Google form in which you could submit concerns to the district, and those would be addressed by district personnel or by members of the board, however it fell. I personally would like to see like town hall meetings that occur with open input from the community, in which there is direct access to present any issues or concerns or things that are, especially like ahead of something like a millage or a change in curriculum, huge change in curriculum, different impacts from legislation. I think that it would be important to really just get in front of the community and invite them to give direct feedback to us.
Ms. Lyon?
I do believe that our meeting space is not adequate for a district our size. It seems ridiculously small. So I'm not sure why we couldn't move it to the high school auditorium. I'm not sure if there's a reason behind that, but that seems like a very adequate space that's easily accessible and would make it a lot easier for a whole lot more people to be able to attend and be present. I would like to encourage the community to be allowed to speak. And then when they're speaking, like a meeting on Tuesday, they let them speak, and then they were just kind of going on with business. But I would like to address what they spoke on some, if you can, in that moment. It's not like, okay, we heard you speak, now we're going to go on. You know, we need to listen to what they did and say, okay, well, we hear you, and now this is what we're going to do. You know, we can get back with you, or we can, you know, here's the next step. And some of it did circle back around, but it wasn't right away. And so I don't know if we can maybe restructure the meeting to address that, but I kind of felt like the speakers may not have felt truly heard because they kept moving.
Thank you. Mr. Moses, we'll start with you for this next question. You are fighting over that mic over there. Not actually. This might be a real quick and easy one.
Before you ask, are we still on the pre-submitted questions, or I'm trying to budget paper space? So have we gotten to the
You need space for no more than 2 new questions. And if you need more paper, I got
Okay.
you. This one also probably won't take much space. Would you support direct student involvement with the Board of Education via a seat for a student? Yes or no? A seat for a student. Would you support student involvement with the school board via a seat for a student?
I have not heard
Yes
that
or no?
idea. I absolutely love it. They were involved with the chamber's committees and the superintendent. I mean, they're a vested interest in our district. Having an SGA president or some sort of community leader not only teaches them the importance of civics and being involved in our community, but it also takes the board and forces them into the real life experience of a student. So I would absolutely enthusiastically support that.
Thank you. Dr. Railsback.
Same. I love the idea. That's all I have.
Great. Ms. Francis?
I agree completely. I think that the district is to support the kids, and we're trying to develop leaders, right? And how better to do that than give them a place at the table?
Ms. Lyon?
Well, and maybe you could take it a step further. I think, at least from the route that my children take through the school district, starting in middle school, you have student council presidents. So why not do like a president's roundtable and let's get them all together? And what are you seeing? I mean, because they got elected by their peers, let's listen to them and just see what they have to share about their school or what they're seeing. And it wouldn't necessarily be a seat on the board for that age group, but I think that getting them involved and listening to them would be amazing. But maybe for the older group, a seat on the board would be amazing.
Thank you. Ms. Knudsen?
I believe every perspective of every stakeholder should be represented on the board, whether we have parents or of gifted kids or parents of special needs kids or community members. We are taxpayers in this district. We are using tax money. We are parents in this district who are depending on these teachers and staff to educate and take care of our kids all day long. Absolutely, let's invite a student. There's a reason that we have grown into leaders, and we have probably been given opportunities along the way. We didn't just show up one day and said, I'm going to run for school board, but we have been given opportunities. So it is our duty to give that same opportunity to students and give them an opportunity to learn in a place that that is serving them as well.
Thank you. All right, for your paper budgeting, this is your last question, and then you'll have time for a closing statement. So take all the space you need on this one. Who did I start with last? I'm sorry, I started with Ms. Francis or Ms. Lyon? Oh, with Tyler. Okay, Dr. Railsback, we're coming to you for this one then. Thank you. I also ran out of paper space.
You were last time.
Yes, Dr. Railsback will start, so you'll be last this time. All right, do you attend school board meetings now? And if so, have you ever addressed the board, and what was your topic?
I get a recap of the meetings, and I read the emails and any videos that I get sent to me as well. And then I have 2 very lovely neighbor friends that tell me all the recaps that go to the meeting. So on Tuesdays, I solo parent because my husband was working. So that's my current situation. Obviously, if I was elected, I would find childcare for Tuesdays.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Francis?
I do attend board meetings, not every board meeting. Sometimes I have to watch online in order to keep a balance, but I do attend board meetings. I have not spoken at a board meeting. I have requested to speak at a board meeting, but was not approved. I do keep emails pretty hot, though, in order to stay in contact with board members and communicate the issues that I perceive.
Thank you. Ms. Lyon?
I have attended board meetings. Either I watch them online or follow up reading the minutes, or I have attended in person as well, and I have not requested to speak.
I have attended most school board meetings for over a year, and probably where this journey started is I requested to speak when the virtual school charter school option was brought up at the very last minute and added to the agenda. I did have initial approval to speak because I met the deadline of noon of Monday, the day before the meeting. This is before the law changed. And then the agenda was changed after noon on Monday, and the topic that I had submitted to speak for was removed, and I was no longer allowed to speak. That inflamed in me a desire to participate in a new level. And so here we are, a year and a half later, and I would like to speak at every board meeting going forward.
Well played. Mr. Moses?
Yes, so I have spoken at probably all of them, but like 2. So for the past year or more now, what Shannan said completely echoed. Until recently, you had to get permission to speak to the board. That was insane to me. Only because I knew how the board operated, I sent a follow-up email and I said, I bet you're gonna try and revoke access, so I'm gonna follow up and say I wanna talk about this. Because of that, pre-planning, I was the only member of the community that was permitted to speak to them. I've spoken about SB 90, which was a law that changed that allowed us to speak, was in the news, and then the legislature asked me to come testify in support of the law that now gives all public members the right to speak to their board. I spoke when my child's best friend needed an IEP and wasn't on it. He's now on an IEP. I talked 2 days ago about the need for transparency and FOIA violations. I talked about finances tripling in the central office and not in the classroom. I talked when Dr. Collum needed to be separated from the campus. So they know me a lot, so I'm a frequenter.
Frequent flyer. All right, so we're going to move to closing statements now, and then we'll have closing from legal and voters. So we'll start with Ms. Francis, and then you can each take up to 90 seconds for closing statements, whatever you want us to know that we don't already.
I think that you will probably have seen this evening that there's really not a bad choice among us. We all seem very focused on students, achievement, and what's best for the community. I would present to you that I have a special set of skills as a CPA to evaluate financial standings, budgets. As a previous school auditor, I have a great understanding of what goes into a school district and the complexity of the financial decisions. I am committed to this community as an advocate, as a community volunteer, as a mother, and as someone who really just wants success for everyone, that it makes us all successful. And if chosen to be on the board, then I will put 150% into it.
Ms. Francis. Ms. Lyon.
I agree. I think that you are looking at some very strong candidates, and I'm very thankful for that we have a lot of amazing choices. I feel like that I have been boots on the ground in the schools for quite some time. My first Conway graduated in the lovely year of 2020. And then my second one in 2023. So I'm halfway there. We're halfway to an empty nest. But I feel like through my student development background and my leadership development background, I have a lot to offer. And when looking at the big picture from a facility management aspect as well, all of those are components of things that I've supervised in the past and I bring to the table. But overall, I am in the schools all the time, really a lot. And so I feel like I have a good pulse and a good rapport with a lot of this teachers and the admin. A lot of them have pulled me aside and said, I can't talk on the record, but this is what I'm concerned about, and things like that. And I think we need to be approachable, and I think that's something that I bring. I want them to know that they can come to their board members and have their voices be heard, and I think that is a key factor moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Lyon.
I think first, thank you. Thank you for all of you being here tonight, for the thoughtful questions that I think are helpful to make a good decision. You obviously care deeply about our schools, and so do we. This election is not just about one seat on the school board. It's about the direction that we're choosing to go forward for our students and for our community, and I think it's important to recognize that. I'm running because I believe every decision we make has to be student-centered and future-focused. Our children deserve strong academics and safe and supportive schools, but also empowered teachers and responsible leadership that's planning wisely for tomorrow while the teachers are doing their job day-to-day running operations. As a mom and a former foster mom of 18 foster kids, we advocate for kids in our family. It runs deep. As a CPA, I bring accountability to this role, but also a lot of heart. I understand the importance of listening. I understand the importance of building trust and making thoughtful, informed decisions that reflect shared values. I would be honored to earn your vote and the opportunity to serve in this role. I will be last on the ballot for Zone 3, but I will keep your students first. And together, I believe that we can strengthen our schools and ensure that every student in our district has the opportunity to succeed in a way that makes sense for them and recognize that it looks different for each one of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knudsen. Mr. Moses.
Hello, I'll close with this. School board leadership isn't just about reviewing numbers and the budget. It's about understanding risk, asking hard questions before small problems become big ones, and making sure every decision connects back to the classroom. That's what I've been doing here in Conway. I've dug into budgets, I've pushed for transparency, I've worked with teachers, and when something wasn't aligned with students' best interest, I stayed engaged until it was addressed. Like I said in the question about speaking to the board, I've shown up being the squeaky wheel when necessary, and it's worked. You've seen that in the changes that are taking place in the administration. It is working. I said when I spoke on Tuesday that it's not fun standing up there every other month talking, but it's important work. I believe in disciplined oversight, I believe in steady leadership, and I believe accountability should lead to action, not just conversation. You've seen me showing up, and you've seen the results. And that's been as a parent, not on the board. So imagine what I can accomplish with an actual seat on the board. I'd be honored to serve Zone 3. Early voting starts on Tuesday, and I'll be first on the ballot, first to show up.
I think that we have some good choices in our zone, and I think these two are also amazing. So I think it comes down to what you all think we need on the board. My background is education and curriculum, and I have a special interest in learning about AI and the development of that. So I think that's what I would bring to the table, which is the unique thing here. I think we align on a lot of other issues, and I think we all care about students and teachers. So that's what I would bring. I think when I see a budget, I think about a vision, and I think about how can we make numbers, how can we shift numbers to make something happen that we really want to see. And so that's kind of, I don't think of it as like a dry spreadsheet, but really like how can we bring this to life and make something really cool happen. So that's what I would bring if you elect me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Railsback. All right, so a few things from me before I hand over to Dr. Graybill with the Legal Women Voters to wrap up for us. First of all, thank you to our candidates. I mentioned this early on. Nobody's getting paid to be here. This is a lot of work. Campaigns are expensive, they're exhausting, and people can be really unkind. And so thank you to our candidates for choosing to run. Thank you also to our candidates for your engagement and your kindness. A encouragement for all of us, civic engagement, C-I-V-I-C. Civility, C-I-V-I-L, right? Same word. We can disagree and do that kindly. You guys have modeled that tonight and plenty of other times. So as you engage with candidates, there was a time a few years ago where these races became really nasty personal attacks. That has not happened this cycle. Maybe we can be the people that help keep that moving forward. Don't hear me say that we can't challenge our leaders. Please challenge them, challenge me, challenge us, but please do it in kindness and talk about the issues as these candidates have done tonight. Thank you all for that. Thank you to Conway Corp and Jeff Matthews for making sure that this is accessible to people that aren't here. Also, thanks for keeping us all warm during the cold snap. Appreciate all you guys do. Y'all rock. We are very blessed to have Conway Corp. And just a final challenge for me, and I hope that I'm not taking Dr. Graybill's thunder here. Less than 10% of the registered voters will vote in this race. So here's an encouragement from you. When you go to vote, take a friend. Grab a neighbor, take a friend. The more people that participate in our, or five, yes. The more people that the more people that participate in our democracy and our civic discourse, the better. And with that, Dr. Graybill.
All right, and I'm here to say thank you so much, Mr. Drew Spurgers, for moderating. We really appreciate you. So just a couple of quick reminders and comments from the League of Women Voters. Thank you again to all of our partners. Thank you to the library. Thank you to the NAACP and Conway Corp as well. I personally am very grateful that we live in a community where we have so many people willing to step up and be public servants. The League of Women Voters can tell you not every community, many communities do not have a single person willing to run for open seats on their school board. And I'm very grateful that we have many wonderful candidates who are willing not just to run, but to be here to allow you to get to know them. That early voting starts on February 17th. And the library, right, your favorite place in the world, and also in Faulkner County, the library is an early voting location, and then Election Day is March 3rd. So we certainly invite you to bring 5 friends to vote, and hope to see you at the polls. Thank you all so much for being here.